Richard Kolko. He's a retired FBI agent, Navy commander, and intel officer. Richard, it's great to speak with you again. I want to pull up this Telegraph headline, Guardian headline, I should say, and I think it summarizes where we are at and how huge this is. The tiny island of Karg that could let Trump beat Iran without sending a single soldier. Can you explain to our viewers how that is possible?
Well, the president and the Department of War now have Karg Island, and they have the Iranians by the throat there. That's their financial infrastructure. Once the money stops flowing, the weapons will stop being built, people will stop being deployed, and it could have a good effect on how the U.S. Continues to carry out this military operation.
And this significance here, I want viewers to understand. So this little island where this crude is processed, about 95% of Iran's crude, most of that goes to China. So if you were to seize control of this island, something that Trump has expressed interest in doing going back to 1988, what does that do to China, our true adversary?
Well, that's going to be a problem for them. We'll have to see how they get involved. I don't think there's any chance they will get involved militarily, but they could certainly make a stink in diplomatic circles about what's going on. But the president, we saw from that video, they've destroyed the Iranians' capability of carrying out operations from there. Airports destroyed, military targets are destroyed, certainly the lines of communication are destroyed. They will not be able to resupply. We all know how important logistics is. So the fact that those targets were eliminated yesterday, big deal for the U.S. and Iran's not going to have a lot of options here. And that's going to mean China doesn't have a lot of options as well.
Richard, I want to move to the attacks we've seen on the homeland. There have been several in the last 14 days, 4 in fact. And ISIS has been demolished during President Trump's first administration, but they still wield enormous power to influence. This is what the New York Times says. While ISIS has diminished in size and power in the past decade, its influence online is far-reaching. They go on to say groups like ISIS have figured out that good recruiting grounds are placed in places like Discord and Roblox and video game apps. Is ISIS seeking to radicalize people on video games, young men here?
I think they're beyond wanting to do it, and I believe they're succeeding in doing it. We've seen both that attack in New York was ISIS related, as well as the other attacks. So it's definitely a problem. These young men are sitting there idolizing what's going on in their basements and watching videos. They're talking on those gaming apps. They're getting radicalized, and this is going to continue to be a problem. I know we talked a lot about these sleeper cells, these big Iranian sleeper cells. Do they exist? I think there are problems with that, but that may take some time. But these individual small attacks, we are going to see more of them, and it's going to keep law enforcement, the intelligence community busy, and it's going to keep people concerned and nervous.
Richard, in one of these attacks, I'm about to get into this with my next guest, it was a high schooler. It was a senior in high school. What sign do you look for? Because it seems like sometimes these guys clam up in their room, in their basement, and there's not a lot of evident warning signs.
That's exactly right. As an investigator, you are stuck. They're not communicating their intentions. They're not passing money. And until the last couple days where they went and bought items to build those explosives, it's very difficult. And if they're not talking to anybody, it's very hard. We know that the FBI is good at these cases when they can get an undercover agent involved and talking with them. That's how a lot of these are resolved. But some of them are going to get through. I mean, there's just so many people that could potentially be involved in this. There are people that are going to be brought to this level of frustration based on the military operation, and we're going to see more of it. And I don't want people to panic about this. That's the important thing. The question is, are we going to have more of these terrorist attacks in the United States? We are. And as a country, we need to be concerned about that. But as an individual, the chances of you actually being caught up in one of them, not likely. So just, don't panic. Don't live your life in a panic. But do the obvious things that you should do. Know situational awareness, keep your phone charged, know where you are. If there's a protest that you don't want to be part of, get out of there. And as you've heard police say for decades now, you see something, say something.
Good advice. And my next guest was one of those undercover agents that stopped a terror plot. Thank you, Richard Kolko. Well, for more on the attacks here at home, my next guest, as I mentioned,